Hi everybody. I'm doing this just to speed us up a little bit. This is a leather hard, just kind of a cut slab of clay that's been compressed, and it matches the same type of clay I have here. This is leather hard to leather hard. This is the most basic and easy type of handle to add. I usually make sure that my hands can grip it, and when I put it on the mug, I like to have a little bit of space at the top, and I like to have space for my pinky underneath if I need it. I like it to also look balanced on the mug, like not too big for the mug or too small. So sometimes I'll press it in and curve it a little bit either way and make it fit my hand. Then what I do is I take a scoring tool and I dip it in water and I score this. At this point, this leather hard handle is still it's holding its shape enough that I can still bend it a little if I need to in place, but when I score it and move it around, it's not losing its shape. In this little dish right here, I have matching clay, and I have a piece of, or I have water, and I'm just basically going to make a slip out of this. I have a lot more water in here than I normally do because this was leather hard clay before I stuck it in here. It's all that I had in my container. This is might be a darker clay that we used before. I'm really not sure. So I'm gonna go empty some of this out. I don't need this much water. Actually, I'm not, that's fine. I'm just gonna hit this against the side of the cup. Sometimes we use like a vinegar. I didn't see any vinegar in the studio, but I will bring some in on Sunday so that we can have some vinegar slip, part 2. All right, for part 2, you can see here that I stirred my slip up a little bit more. Some of it's liquidy and some of it's kind of thick. So when I spread this on here, I like to use the thick slip, and then I like to score it into this thing right here and into this end right here and dab that on kind of like concrete. What I will then do is take this piece right here and I will put it on there and line it up where I want it to go, and I'll look to make sure that it's even and in the right spot. I leave a little bit of space below for my thumb and a little bit of space up above from my finger, and then I check it and make sure that it's straight. This one is a little crooked, so it looks like I need to slide that over a little bit, and it should touch this with it being a little more straight. So it looks like I need to slide that over just a little bit. And now, as you can see, this is straight on here. There's a little room under here and a little room up here. All right, so sometimes I'll make a little mark on the side, kind of where that goes, because I'm going to take this handle off now, and I'm going to score this part of the pot, of the leather hard mug. Part 3 coming up. I have to do this in shorts because I can't send long videos. All right, now that I have my placement, everything's lined up, I'm gonna get this a little bit wet, and I'm gonna stick some thick slip or vinegar slip on here. And then I'm also going to take one of these tools. You all should have one in your kits. It's like a little wire broom. Probably has a name, but I don't know what it is. And then I'm gonna make sure that this is still wet. I dipped it in some of my liquidy slip. And then I'm going to take it again, put it on, and at this point, I'm gonna press it down, and it should suction there where it goes. And then I'm gonna check it again, make sure my hand fits on it, and keep in mind that this clay is gonna shrink. Make sure that this is straight on here. So it looks pretty nice. And then what I'm gonna do is take a tool, a blending tool, and I'm going to blend this on. So you score it, you slip it, and then you blend it. So I'm basically just scraping down a few little molecules of clay. You could use a colored pencil to do this. You could use a wooden stick. You know, just kind of any tool that's going to scrape along the clay and seal that edge up. So I'm going in and just kind of sealing that up. There we go. All right, now I'm going to come along with my finger and I'm going to get rid of extra slip and kind of blend that a little bit like so. And again, I could use a paintbrush for this if I wanted to. And if this starts to lean in any kind of a weird way, I want to check that, make sure that's on there the way that I want to before I do my final bit of blending. Now, I'm going to take some sort of soft clay, and it's about the same, this is the same slab, it's about the same thickness. I cut it off the slab. And I'm going to make 2 pieces for the top. I'm going to cut this about 1/8 of an inch, and I'm going to cut this into 4 pieces about the same thickness and length. So as you can see, I've got my 4 little pieces here. They're about the same consistency of this clay here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little bit of clay on the inside here and a little bit on the inside here. I'll put some slip underneath that, and then I'm going to blend that in. And then I don't need as thick of a piece underneath here. I don't want it to take up very much space. So actually I'm going to slice this piece in half and use a thinner piece underneath here to blend in and add a little bit of thickness and strength to that, and a little thicker piece up here. Some people make little designs like a little circle for the thumb to set in, or you know they do something creative down there as they go along. Okay, I removed my little pieces, and I'm going to be working quickly, but if I wasn't, I might take this, and I'm actually going to do that. I'm going to cover these up with a sponge, because they're so thin, so that they do not dry out. And then what I'm going to do is underneath here where I'm adding those little pieces, I'm going to dip this tool in water, and I'm going to score underneath here where I'm adding that thicker piece of clay. And fortunately for this size of mug, my piece is about the same thickness as this little wire scoring tool. And then I'm going to get it wet and stick that in there and create some slip. And as you might imagine, now I'm going to take one of these, keep the other ones under the damp sponge, and this is going in like this, so I'm going to score this side right here, the thin side. That's the part that's going up underneath the clay. And I'm simply going to stick this, hopefully you can see this on the video. I'm going to stick it right underneath there. So it's about the same width. I can always trim some off. And then I'm going to end up blending that in with the blending tool. All right, I got less lazy and I actually decided to get a good blending tool. I want to keep that over those little pieces. And I'm going to blend this in to this part of the clay here, and then kind of blend that. And I like to make this curved and blend that up into there so it looks like a natural, like almost like a tree trunk coming down underneath there. And this is a nice little curved area here. And then I'm going to do the same thing underneath here. I'm going to blend that into that piece. And if it's not blending, I can get this wet underneath here. And I sometimes like to turn it upside down. Try to move this back just a little bit. I like to turn that upside down so that I can see what I'm doing as I'm blending this into the bottom of the clay. So I keep the thickness kind of at the edge, and then I blend this in so that it's unrecognizable. Sometimes I'll get my finger just damp, and I'll go in here and I'll blend that out. Now there are many other ways to do handles. Again, for beginners, this is just kind of a way that keeps it from cracking so much. If you have like a beam mix clay, sometimes beam mix on these handles doesn't always want to be your best friend. As a matter of fact, it's sometimes a good idea, so that this dries at the same speed, to wrap a little cling wrap around here, since this is now a little wetter. You know, I don't know why that works. Peg taught it to me, and I just do it every time, and I don't think I've ever had a handle crack. But I have used like nice vinegar slip to catch it. And you know, you can pull handles. There's all different kinds of things you can do to make handles. You can braid handles, you can sculpt handles. And this clay's drying out just a little bit, so you see me taking my finger and kind of going on here and getting this just a little more damp, so that everything's kind of blending in. I'm not using too much water or too much pressure, but and I'll go back in and clean that up. But you can see how that looks. I don't think I'm going to actually put one of the little pieces up here. This looks pretty stable enough, and if I just take a paintbrush and kind of make that sort of slippy and blend that in, that should be okay. So same thing for underneath here. I'll probably just put my thicker one here. You know, sometimes you can make a decision. So I'm going to do that, and I'll be back. All right, I'm finishing this last little bit here. I slipped and scored it on my little tiny piece here. I blended it on the sides, and now I'm putting my finger in here to support this, so that as I blend this along here on the inside, I don't accidentally push that off or crack it or break it again, going very gently into the clay. And before I finish this, I'm kind of scraping away and getting rid of like any weird edges there with the end of this little tool. And I think most of you guys have these in your clay kits there. Okay, now you can see that the top part up here looks a little more finished than the bottom part. If you'll remember, I took my finger in here, and you could take a paintbrush too, dipped in a little water, like a stiff paintbrush, and I'm just kind of evening that out. And again, as long as I kind of blend this in down here, just the way that is structured and the thickness of this handle, I think that should hold pretty well. So I'm hoping that all of you in this class get to make a handle and go through that process. And you know, again, once it's on there, you can kind of adjust it. It's still a little bit movable. And I'm now going around the edges of this clay, not too heavily, but I'm going around the edges, and maybe take both of my fingers and gently, without taking it out of place, just kind of like we do when we compress our rims, just kind of softening that around there and softening this around here. And what I'll probably do to finish this off is get a paintbrush and dip it in some of my damp slip here, and kind of brush over the whole thing and smooth it out with slip. Okay, for the last bit of finishing on this mug, I just used this damp sponge, and I kind of went in here, and I went under here, and I went gently along the sides, and I blended that in. I see a little spot up here that I don't love. Again, you can use your fingers. You could spend hours kind of trying to get this perfect. A lot of times the glaze, you know, you can see me making this a little straighter. The glaze will kind of fill in little imperfections. You know, you don't want to spend too much time, but you do want to spend enough time. I know that seems kind of a strange thing to say, but you know, kind of go through. And then this clay has a little bit of a grog in it. So with just a damp sponge, I'm going in here and getting out any little imperfections and kind of bringing out that sand texture, and then going on the inside and making sure I get any crumbs out, checking the bottom and making sure it doesn't have any weird crumbles of clay on it. And then again, make sure that you put your signature on the bottom. You've got your foot and your mug. Cheers. One more thing that I forgot to show on this handle is taking a little bit of saran wrap, cling wrap, whatever you call it, and wrapping it around the handle here where you've joined that, so that that dries slowly, and then wrapping that around there. Kind of like to, I think I like to put it like this and tuck a little under here, and then kind of bring that in and under, push that up, and just kind of wrap it loosely around like that before I set it out to dry. Final cheers.